Nancy Leader on the Zeta Report. So you've survived the pole shift. Congratulations! Well, now what? Can't go shopping as the roads are all torn up, bridges are down, your local stores have probably been looted by now in any case. Perhaps you've stocked up. You have canned or dried foods and lots of clean water at hand. But what happens when that runs out? Don't get me wrong, having supplies on hand is certainly a good idea. It gives a good start to any survival community, getting over the shock of the pole shift, treating the injured and saying goodbye to those who didn't make it. Supplies allow a transition time. Lord knows we're going to need it. Having a strong cup of coffee and a plate of rice and beans during this time almost seems a necessity. Something quickly at hand, easy to make, and familiar. Might want to spike that coffee too, at least during the first few hours after the shift. And don't forget the kids. They need to be distracted too by something familiar and comforting. Homeland Security advises a 3-day kit. But 3 days won't cut it. They don't even mention the most needed items. Needle and thread, fish hook, axe, and a water distillation rig. Survival tip 1. Distill your drinking water. The best means of distilling water is a stacked pot arrangement, where the top pot cools the steam, and the distillate is captured by a pie pan rig stuck in the middle, draining to the side. Makes gallons of clean drinking water within hours and plenty of hot water up top for washing chores afterwards. Why is distilled drinking water important? Surface and even well water will be polluted by sewage, spewed industrial chemicals, volcanic dust, and parasites. Distilling your drinking water gets rid of all of that. Even the heavy metals like lead, it leaves the lead behind. If you can't get a rig started right away, a drop of chlorine bleach might at least keep you from getting the runs. Well, that is, until the chlorine runs out. When planning, think long term. Short term is great when you're just catching your breath, but when planning, think long term. For instance, starting fires. Matches will only last so long, and then there are 2 basic premises to remember. Simple friction will start a fire, as the Helicon Master Fire Starter is demonstrating here. Ah yes, starting fires. A simple flint device can be purchased at a hardware store for just a couple bucks. And don't forget, a Bic lighter has a flint in it too. Don't throw away that last Bic lighter. Next survival tip, eat a bug. I've eaten earthworm soup and it tasted like chicken soup. I'm serious. Their 82% protein can be grown in a compost pile, and the herd never stampedes. Insects are eaten the world over, considered a delicacy in many cultures. Roast them in a little oil over a fire, or if as large as a tarantula or grasshopper, just roast over the fire on a spit. Next survival tip, eating weeds. Once again, I'm as serious as a heart attack. This is sheep sorrel, which grows in my yard as a weed, very high in vitamin C, and will tolerate shade too, ideal for volcanic bloom. Dandelion is entirely edible, as are cattails. Plantain is very high in vitamin A. Stinging nettle, when steamed, is very high in vitamins, especially iron, good for anemia. Get a book and get familiar with the weeds in your area. The Zetas advise having an action plan for that hour after the pole shift. The fight or flight mechanism will be generated because, as an animal, we'll feel threatened, and this will result in anger, hostility, or depression. But if action, physical action is ensued, it dissipates. So what would you do to have every survivor busy in the hour after the pole shift? Certainly tending to the injured and rescuing those trapped is a first priority, But this won't keep everyone busy. What about the children? Have teams of the little ones looking for crockery that hasn't broken and bring it to a central place for a communal meal that night. If there was a cow caught in barbed wire, injured too badly to survive, it could become a barbecue meal for all that night, a celebration of survival. Refrigerators could be emptied and brought to the communal dining room. That stuff's going to spoil anyway. Older children could look for bedding, pulling the mattresses under roof sections made into lean-to shelters to ensure dry beds for all in the perpetual drizzle that's expected after the pole shift. Whatever your action plan is, make sure that everyone has physical activity. That's the key.